It's time for another episode of Carib Money Report. I am Kimberly Ramkalawan. This week is all about the central banks as the day takes center stage across the Caribbean. From quarterly reports released, the CARICOM's biannual meeting of governors, while we see Afri-Exim Bank's roadshow roll into Guyana. And we go to 1966 when the Bahamas switched its currency to decimal. All this and more coming up in this week's Carib Money Report. The Bank of Jamaica released its report this week, urging financial institutions to adhere to their interest rates, while they also report stability of its reserves. Bank of Jamaica targeted its commercial banks this week after it was revealed that interest rates remain high on loans despite a reduction in its policy rates. Its governor Richard Biles made the revelation to customers this week during the bank's press conference.
Many loans from the commercial banks were fixed rate loans. And to that extent, those customers did not feel an increase in the price of loans. That's a fact. We have the data on that. They are your customers. I'm speaking to the commercial banks. Can you give them some relief? The Bank of Jamaica has cut 1.25%. You should be in a position to make a cut also.
Governor Biles says core inflation was 4.4% in April, remaining below 6% since July 2023, with foreign exchange remaining at healthy values.
Higher inflation could stem from a sharper than anticipated increase in the tariff faced by trading partners of the U.S. In addition, domestic inflation could be higher than projected if there is a further escalation in geopolitical tensions, which could negatively impact international supply chains. Bank of Jamaica remains committed to achieving its primary mandate of maintaining inflation at 4 to 6% and will deploy the tools necessary to preserve price and foreign exchange stability.
Meanwhile, the BOJ says it remains positive that its economy is well positioned to withstand any shocks arising from inflation linked to the U.S. shift in trade policy.
Headline inflation has therefore continued to remain within the Bank of Jamaica's target. Also, core or underlying inflation remains low. Core inflation, which excludes the prices of agricultural food products and fuel from the Consumer Price Index, was 4.4% at April 2025. Expectations about exchange rate depreciation have remained relatively stable. At the 14th of May 2025, the exchange rate had depreciated on a year-over-year basis by 1.9%.
A regional green taxonomy and a transfer of local currencies cross borders within CARICOM were just some of the areas discussed when regional central bank governors met in Curacao this week for the 64th biannual meeting of the CARICOM Central Bank Governors. Senior central bank officials from 11 Caribbean jurisdictions attended the event to address regional economic developments and strengthen the resilience of the Caribbean's financial systems. One major milestone was the signing of a cooperation agreement with the World Bank IFC and participating central banks to develop a regional green taxonomy. Governor Kevin Greenidge signed the agreement on behalf of the group, marking a key step in advancing climate finance and fostering the creation of a regional green financial market. Working groups and technical committees delivered updates, including the Caribbean Group of Banking Supervisors, Cybersecurity Information Sharing Group, CARICOM FinTech Working Group, and the Regional Reserves Managers Group. These reports underscore the importance of sustained cross-border collaboration in a rapidly evolving global financial landscape. Progress was also reviewed on several strategic regional initiatives, including a centralized eKYC, electronic Know Your Customer, and CDD system customer due diligence, aimed at improving customer mobility and competition across financial institutions. Once again, the CARICOM Payment and Settlement System, CAPS, was demonstrated, a real-time cross-border payments between the central banks of the Bahamas and Barbados. Governors agreed in principle to adopt CAPS to deliver instant local currency payments across CARICOM and endorsed a more robust validation phase involving at least 2 additional central banks. A proposed $200 million regional bond to finance climate-resilient infrastructure to be issued by the CARICOM Development Fund was discussed and supported by a draft terms sheet under review. Governors supported the initiative for the issuance of the regional bond and agreed to have a finalized position paper for the upcoming Heads of Government meeting in July 2025. The governors will meet in Curacao in November at the 25th biannual meeting and the 56th Annual Monetary Studies Conference under the theme Resilience Through Transformation. The UTC maintained a solid financial performance, generating 1.045 billion TT dollars in total investment income, attributing it to disciplined asset allocation and strategic diversification. Chief Financial Officer Kerry Maraj provided an update on the current state of the corporation.
Management have increased from 23.6 billion to 24.2 billion. That's nearly a $600 million increase. Currently hold $1.7 billion in capital, and I emphasize billion, that's with a B. And if you notice the balance in 2020, it was 1.5 billion. So there's a 200 million increase in the capital that we hold over those 5 years. We had a lower level of profit in 2024. One, we still made a profit, so we didn't even need to dip into that capital. But also, if something happens in the future, something unexpected, even if there's another increase in the price guarantee liability in the future.
According to their report, the TT Dollar Income Fund distributed $279.4 million, up 78.2%, while the US Dollar Income Fund distributed $129.5 million, reflecting an 89.2% increase over the previous year. Afrexim Bank took its roadshow series to Ghana in the past week, where it unveiled its promised $1 billion oil and gas fund to empower local businesses. In hosting its 2-day engagement for the official launch of the financial facility, Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance and the public service, Dr. Ashni Singh, shared there were real opportunities to be unlocked between the African continent and the Caribbean.
It fills me with a lot of pride to see Guyanese companies doing really remarkable work that just a few years ago we might not have thought possible. And I want to congratulate the Guyanese private sector for the way that you have reacted. Because I see a Guyanese private sector that has dramatically upped their game. I see a Guyanese private sector that has recognized that this is a whole new world that we're operating in, that this cannot be business as usual. We have to operate at a completely different level of sophistication, a completely different level of ambition and boldness, a completely different level of efficiency and reliability, because you're now competing with global players for business. And nobody is going to do business with you just for sentimental reasons. You have to be reliable. You have to deliver good quality goods and services. You have to do so in a competitive way. And I see the Guyanese private sector responding and operating at a wholly new level than they would have been operating, say.
South-to-South business taking root from Guyana to Africa, connecting the continents. We're taking our first break. Stay with us.
We want you to advertise with us. Join us as the premier business magazine and news outlet covering the Caribbean. Contact us today at 868-783-5094.
We now take a peep at our top stock performers this week. It's now The Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange recorded a volume of 6,300,659 put-through transactions, valued at $59,889,733 for the week ending May 23rd. Market indices saw declines ranging from 0.16% to 0.76% in 3 indices and advances of 0.03% in 1 index. The top 3 securities traded for the week were Grace Kennedy Limited, CIBC Caribbean Bank Limited, and JMMB Group Limited. A sum of 14 securities advanced, with Calypso Macro Index Fund increasing the highest by 6.13%, as well as Flipdeco by 5.47%. There were declines in 5 securities, in which NCB Financial Group and Answer Merchant Bank Limited decreased the most by 7.76% and 3.68% respectively. A total of 5 securities remain unchanged. The Jamaican Stock Exchange reported a grand total of 59,982,301 units, valued at $419,204 Jamaican dollars, traded for this week. The top 3 securities traded for the week were Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited, Wigton Energy Limited, and JMMB Group Limited. Advances occurred in 27 stocks, in which Epley Caribbean Property Fund SCC increased the highest by 12.73%, as well as Carbon Producers Jamaica Limited by 5.49%. A total of 33 stocks declined, with Pulse Investments Limited decreasing the most by 11.22%, alongside MPC Caribbean Clean Energy Limited by 10.42%. Overall, 4 stocks traded firm. The Barbados Stock Exchange recorded a volume of 21,661 shares, valued at $31,254 Barbadian dollars, traded on the regular market this week. Barbados Farms Limited captured 94% of the market, with 20,451 shares traded. Second to this was Cape Shepherd and Company Limited, with 536 shares. West India Biscuit Company Limited gained the 3rd highest volume of shares traded for the week, with a total of 311 shares. Overall, 2 securities advanced, 1 declined, and 14 remain unchanged. The Eastern Caribbean Securities Exchange market reported a sum of 2,043 shares, valued at $19,784 EC dollars, traded for this week. Bank of St. Vincent and Grenadines Limited captured approximately 73% of the market, with 1,500 shares traded. TDC Limited obtained the 2nd highest, with 365 shares, and thirdly was St. Lucia Electricity Services Limited, gaining 145 shares. There were a total of 4 securities traded this week, in which all 4 traded firm. Carbon businesses performing on the stock exchange. We take a short break at this time.
We want you to advertise with us. Join us as the premier business magazine and news outlet covering the Caribbean. Contact us today at 868-783-5094.
We now go back to 1966, when the Bahamas dollar up to par with the US and switched to decimal currencies. May 25th, 1966, the Bahamas went decimal, marking where the dollar replaced the pound 7 years before independence, bringing its currency on par with the US dollar. The change came in 1966, following its passage of the Currency Act of 1965, which led to seeing both pound and dollar notes interchangeable for 6 months. On conversion day, 3.4 million pounds in Bahamian currency went into circulation, which was 110% backed with British government securities. The dollar replaced the pound at a rate of $1 per 7 shillings, a rate that made way for the establishment of parity with the US dollar, due to the sterling dollar rate then being fixed at £1 being equivalent to $2.80. At the time of decimalization, $3 bills and 15-cent coins were created, as $3 was roughly equivalent to £1, and 15 cents to a shilling. During the transition, coins were introduced in denominations of 1, 5, 10, 15, 25, and 50 cents, and $1 and $2. The 1 cent was struck in nickel brass, the 5, 10, and 15 cent in copper nickel, the 25 cent in nickel, and the 50 cent and $1 in silver. The 10 cent was scallop shaped, whilst the 15 cent was square. In that same year, the government would introduce notes in denominations of a half, 1, 3, 5, 10, 20, 50, and $100. The Bahamas Monetary Authority took over the issuance of paper money in 1968, issuing the same denominations, while the Central Bank of the Bahamas was established on June 1st, 1974, and took over note issuance from that point forward. It omitted printing half and $3 denominations, but would later be reintroduced in 1984. An interesting page in our currency history in the region. Stay tuned.
We want you to advertise with us. Join us as the premier business magazine and news outlet covering the Caribbean. Contact us today at 868-783-5094.
Well, we have come to the end of another episode of Carib Money Report. I am Kimberly Ramcalo, and join us next week. Until then, take care.